Hello there. My name is John Mitchell. I'm a lecturer in sports video production at Auburn University. And what I am creating today is a series of videos on teaching with AI and the best way to use AI tools in your teaching. We're going to look at a variety of different things throughout this course over the next 8 videos. We're going to look at the best tools that you can use for having AI help in your teaching. We're going to look at specifically video editing AI tools that can be used and the best ways to teach those. We're going to look at the best ways to prompt the AI. We're going to look at different educational frameworks that talk about prompting. We're going to look at accessibility standards, so closed captioning, audio descriptions, and then we're going to wrap up with using the best AI practices ethically. So this is what we're going to go over these next 8 videos. In this first video, we're going to look at specifically AI tools and look at some different ones so that you can decide the one that best fits for you. We're going to be using video editing as our teaching context, but these ideas can be related to any discipline that you would like to that you teach. All right, so let me share my screen here. And what we're going to look at today is 3 different tools, AI tools, that could be used to help create different lecture material. So we're going to look, like I said, specifically at video editing. So we're going to start with ChatGPT, right? So ChatGPT is probably the most famous, is probably the one that gets used the most. It has a free version that is pretty good. You're limited sort of on the number of things you can upload. But ChatGPT is what we're going to look at first. And then we're going to compare this between ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and then we're also going to look at a specific one called Mindsmith.ai, which we are going to use, which is aimed at education, right? So you can see this is e-learning, and so we're going to create a new lesson inside of that. All right, so we'll get to that in just a minute. But let's start with ChatGPT. So I put in this prompt. It said, so let's say you're creating a lecture for a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, right? A 50-minute class. So we're going to say create a 50-minute lecture for a university level introduction to sports video production class that focuses on post-production editing for hype videos, right? And you can see it took this typo and it edited. So I put a couple of typos in there just to see how it would come up, and it did. It figured out that that was asking for a hype video. Okay. And so here's the lecture title: Building Emotion Through Editing, Creating Sports Hype Videos. Okay, not a bad title. You could probably come up with a better one yourself. All right. It does come up with some learning objectives. So, identifying a purpose, understanding pacing, analyze how sports teams build excitement. Okay. So, it comes up with an opening question. Start with a discussion, right? A 5 minute discussion, a little bit quick, especially if you're going to start showing examples. Now, it says show Auburn Tigers football intro video. It does not give you a link to any of that stuff. Okay. It doesn't give you a link. It's got Alabama and Georgia on here. It knows that I work at Auburn through some previous stuff that we've put in. So that's why it came up with that example. But again, it doesn't give you the specific examples. So you're going to have to look those up. You're going to have to find stuff, right? And this is going to be a theme throughout this. The ability to do all of this in 5 minutes doesn't make a lot of sense, right? If you're going to discuss these things that make a good sports hype video, then you're going to show 2 or 3 videos that are a minute each, and then you're going to discuss those. There's no way that's making 5 minutes, right? So again, we've asked for a 50-minute class breakdown. That's very quick, right? What is a hype video? A bit repetitive, right? From what makes a sports hype video. This is going to be more of your core elements, not just highlighting the moment, right? There's some different things in here. Story arc, which this part is good, right? Intro, build. You want to have your climax and then you end. That's good. Post production workflow, um, organizing music, organizing highlights, crowd shots, selecting music. All of this, there's no way you're doing this in 10 minutes. Now, could you teach this in 10 minutes? Potentially, right? You could show different examples on how to organize footage. You could show how to pick music, but again, 10 minutes, that's really fast. And building a timeline, these could be individual lessons on themselves. You could do an entire 50-minute lesson on organizing footage. You could do an entire 50-minute lesson on building the timeline. Okay, so you can see this output, right? I don't want to get into too many details because we're going to keep these videos short. But there's a lot in here, and there's no way you're doing this in 50 minutes. There's no way you're color correcting and grading in 2 minutes, even teaching that. Like that could be an entire week of your course. We're not doing this in 2 minutes, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, and so it does give an editing challenge, right? Give the students 8 clips and one music track and have them put it together. I actually like that from an in-class activity, but you're not, again, 6 minutes is much too short of a time frame, and you as the instructor know that, right? You're not going to give students 8 clips and a music track and expect them to build something in 3 to 4 minutes. All right, give them time with this. That again could be an entire class, right? And then your closing is 2 minutes. A nice homework assignment. This will be a good project for them to do, create a hype video. And then it does give you some teaching framework, right? Constructivism, because students are creating and making decisions, experimental learning, they're doing hands on work, breaking into, this is sort of funny, breaking into chunks, cognitive load theory, but they just put all of this into one lesson, right? Transitions, color grading, layering sound, speed ramping, all of that into one lesson. So, what we've learned from ChatGPT is that you've got to be very careful. And what we're going to do is, as we move forward, we're going to learn how to prompt this better, right? This is a very generic prompt. And so, what we're going to do is we're going to learn better ways to prompt these so that we get more concise lecture material. Okay. Again, this doesn't create PowerPoints. You can ask it to sort of think through that, but it just gives you the step by step. Google Gemini, very similar idea, right? It's got a little bit of the anatomy of a hype video, so a little bit more of a dramatic lecture title. Again, 50 minutes, very similar though. What is a hype video? 3 pillars, right? The build, the release, the aftermath, pre editing, music sound design, and sonic pacing. Sonic pacing is not a word, not a phrase that I've heard before in 20 plus years of video editing. So if there's those of you and maybe in film that do that, that's something there to think about. Cutting on the beat, right? That's very good. 15 minutes. This is a more realistic timeline. Again, you're not going to color grade in 5 minutes, right? You could go over an assignment in 5 minutes. So this does a good job as a more realistic timeline. It shows less, right? But it's more realistic here on Google Gemini. So you could do sound design in 15 minutes, rhythm speed. Again, this could be an entire week of your course as you go through those things, and then color grading. Conclusion, sort of the same idea. It does give you some lecture notes, interactive moment, technical warning, right? Remind students about the frame rate. But again, frame rate, that's a whole other thing that you need to teach. So again, not a comprehensive thing, right? Not a comprehensive idea. And this is something that prompting will help with. Okay. The last thing I want to show you as we move forward here is Mindsmith.ai. Now, this is something that is built for teachers to use. It's an e-learning platform. It's built to sort of help you, right? And so you can say, and let me fix the typo for this one, create a 50-minute video lecture, right? And so let's go. And so it's going to take a little bit longer. It thinks a little bit like the ChatGPT and the Gemini that ran through it really quick, right? And so it sort of gives you some, it hypes you up a little bit, right? What a fun brief. Sports hype videos are great. And so now what it's going to do, and this is what I really like about Mindsmith, is that it starts to ask you different questions, right? With ChatGPT, we put the prompt, this is the output. Same thing with Gemini. We put in the prompt, here's the output. Now, what Mindsmith wants to do is it wants to get a little bit more information about exactly what you're doing, which is great. Okay. And so you have these options here. Well, who's the audience here? Is it true beginners? Is it some basics already? Is it a mixed class with varying experience levels, or they've done a full semester of fundamentals? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose two because that's typically, I'm sorry, I'm going to choose three because this is typically what I have is a mixed class with varying levels of experience. So if I choose three, I have a mixed variable, and so now it's absorbing that and it's thinking about, okay, how do I want to do this? It's imagining different things. You can see as it's taking a little while to think through this stuff. So it's not nearly as fast as ChatGPT or Google Gemini. So you'll have to keep that in mind as well. But it is going to try to get you a little bit more detail as to what you're trying to do, right? And so mixed class, Final Cut Pro, Flip Classroom, something else. I'm going to say something else because I wanted to do Adobe Premiere Pro because that's what we have access to here at Auburn. Okay. Now you can skip these. right? If there's something that you would like it to cover, you can skip it. Well, I didn't. You can skip it, and it will come up. It will give you something. It's not going to just lead you to nowhere. Oh, here's Adobe Premiere Pro right here, right? So we're going to say one here. We're going to choose one, and we're going to say next. What should the students walk away being able to do, right? So an action verb here. And again, this ChatGPT tried to do all of this in one lesson, right? And so Mindsmith is recognizing that you're not going to be able to do all of this in one lesson, right? So what do we want them to do? Let's say we'd like them to understand, since this is a very introduction, right? We want them to understand a narrative structure and storytelling, okay? And so we're going to say next, and it's going to continue to think about this as it works its way through. Um, good Adobe Premiere Pro, and we're going to say mixed class. How will students use this lesson? Instructor led, and now it's going to get to moving, right? And if it's something that doesn't make sense, right, it will ask for clarification. So like I put 3 in earlier, it wanted me to click. So capturing it correctly, Adobe Premiere Pro is what we're looking for. Understanding narrative structure and storytelling in sports context. All right. And so, again, you can add something else if it doesn't give you an option for something. And so now it says everything, it's got everything it needs. And so now it's going to start to storyboard this out for you. And it's going to start to make some edits. And you'll get an idea. And we'll see how this compares to the ChatGPT and the Google Gemini. The sort of the idea of this is to look for the AI tools that fit best with what you are trying to do, right? If you're looking for very basic, very cut, dry, fast, very something very specific, ChatGPT, Google Gemini can help you, right? Because if you know exactly what you're looking for, if you don't know what you're looking for and you're looking to start from scratch, then you're going to need something that's more specific than those base ones, right? You're going to need something that has some educational context and understands how to teach these different things. So you can see it's starting to load these outputs here. And again, remember we've asked it to um, sort of give an overview of sports storytelling, right? So it's given us objectives here: identify narrative structure, describe the role of music, apply a footage selection, explain the use of color grading, and evaluate a hype video, right? So those are going to be the objectives that it's going to try to come up with. And we'll see how this does here as it's continuing to work on each of those objectives. And so what's nice about this is that it will connect each of these editing platforms that will connect each of these resources back to the course objectives, right? So if you want to give it the objectives for your course, or you want to give it the objectives for a certain lecture, it will try to make sure that it matches those lectures up. All right. So here we go. It's finally got the overview. And so you can say open with an example, key points, right? This is sort of similar, right, to what we saw with ChatGPT, but it's more specific, right? We're talking about BPMs. We're talking about the song arc. We're talking about the visuals, a concept driven walkthrough of how to sync cuts, right? About 7 minutes. That's a little short for that. Teach students to think like a storyteller. This is something we didn't get in the ChatGPT or the Google Gemini prompt because this was something that we asked for once it started asking us for those specific questions, right? Hero moments, context shots. Those are really important things that you can talk about. And what you can do too, the way this is broken down is it's not just sort of listed out like this. The way that this is broken down with the different overviews is you can make an entire lecture off of these if you wanted to, right? Off of each of these points. Okay, so it's just a little bit better organization. It buries in a little bit more. Again, we're going to talk about prompting in a couple of videos, and that will help us nail down, and will actually make ChatGPT and Google Gemini a little bit more of a resource for us as we start to look at a lot of these things. Okay, so now the point of this video is use ChatGPT and Google Gemini for sort of your high level stuff. If you want to use those, just know they don't have a teaching context, right? Mindsmith, there's a bunch of these AIs out, and this Mindsmith has sort of a free version. It does have a version that's paid for, but it has a free version, and that's what we're using. We're going to use everything we use is free on here. And so you can see the objectives that it's connecting to, right? Objective 5, this connects to 1 through 4, objective 4. So it gives you that. And again, this can be an entire lecture. All right. And so if you're looking for very specific stuff and you need help, try to find an educational AI that understands how you're trying to build things out. Okay. So again, that's the first video in this series. We'll continue to look at how to teach video editing. We're going to look at how to teach the AI tools built into AI editing in our next video. But this has just been an overview of AI tools for coming up with lecture material. Again, my name is John Mitchell, and I hope you have a great day.